What's up, y'all? I want to come to y'all about this speech that the president made just earlier tonight in Miami, Florida at Doral. President Trump has, as some people say, made a soft declaration of war against Venezuela. Now, for those who have been following this, and those from Venezuela, those that know, Maduro was in charge there. He followed up after Hugo Chavez, ran a socialist government there. As a lot of people know, the country has been in poverty recently. As reported, it cost about 2.5 million bolivars for a roll of toilet paper. Needless to say, mass inflation is hit in Venezuela. It's hard to get food, hard to get normal supplies to live, and it's definitely coming to a head. Now, while the United States supports the parliamentary selected president Juan Guaido or Guido, or depending on who you ask how to pronounce it, I'm not here to talk about pronunciation right now. Anyway, the United States is backing him along with the European Union, Canada, so on and so forth. Now, and you also have Russia and you have China sticking with Maduro following after Chavez in the socialist government. Now, that is big. The majority of the Latin American countries are supporting the United States and supporting Guaido or Guido. Now, you have China, mainly in Russia, supporting Venezuela because they have investments in Venezuela. Venezuela is right now, currently, technically speaking, is sitting on the largest oil reserves in the world. So that makes Venezuela a very profitable and prosperous piece of property for all of those who are willing to step in with a strong enough military to protect this country, since it cannot protect itself right now and it cannot pay its bills. So Trump came out today with this speech here. We know it's been heating up. The New York Fed shut down Maduro's money. Maduro being the president of Venezuela, for those who don't know, currently right now disputed. New York Fed shut down his money. Bank of London shut off his gold. He made a deal just a couple of days ago to try to move in some money from United Arab Emirates, from Dubai. So he's going to try to get some gold there to get some euros to pay his soldiers. Because if he can't pay his soldiers will turn, move on to Guaido, and thus the coup will have been successful and Maduro will be out. All right, the United States has lots of operatives in here. We've got John Bolton on the scene, Mike Pence, and also Elliot Abrams, who is known for doing regime change and taking over oil. Iraq. But Elliot Abrams, look him up. Now, Trump has this speech today. All right, this speech was huge. It was like some people say, a soft declaration of war. And he has drawn his line in the sand. Everyone knows, that he is a capitalist. He is like the poster boy for capitalism. All right. He is not a socialist, does not support socialism in any way, shape, or form. So Donald Trump has found something in common with a lot of people who do not like his style, that do not like his tactics. However, because he is a capitalist and they support capitalism, then they are ready to roll with this. They're ready to go. And he came out and gave a groundbreaking, amazing speech today in Miami, and I will be willing to call the first one to say this may be called in the future the Trump Doctrine. All right, this may be the Trump Doctrine. All right, he came out and said a lot of things. I don't want to quote the whole speech. It was a long speech. He did a lot of things. He brought in Venezuelans who have died for their families and members who have died for this cause, brought them on to speak as well. But he said, socialism, by its very nature, does not respect borders. It does not respect boundaries or the sovereign rights of its citizens or its neighbors. It's always seeking to expand, to encroach, and to subjugate others to its will. I mean, those are some powerful words about socialism, and he's drawing a line in the sand right here. He says, The twilight hour of socialism has arrived in our hemisphere. The days of socialism and communism are numbered. Not only in Venezuela, but in Nicaragua and in Cuba as well. He's calling them out several times. Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba. He's calling out the names of the country. He's declaring a soft war on these regimes right here. All right. Now we're going to move on. All right. He says a new day is coming in Latin America, to rousing applause. All right. He's really laid down the line, this capitalism versus socialism thing. That is where he's going to draw his line. That is what he's going to run on in 2020. Mark it down here. You heard it here first. He's running as a capitalist, and if you're not with him, you're a socialist. That's what he's going with. All right. He says socialism is dying, and liberty, prosperity, and democracy are being reborn. We know who they are. This is speaking of the Maduro people. He starts talking about how the Maduro regime has been taking the riches, taking the money from the country's prosperous oil reserves, and they have been using it to enrich themselves. Now, you can debate that, whether or not they use it for themselves or they use it for certain whatever. All right. But he's laying it on. He says that they are taking the money. Maduro is taking the money that rightfully belongs to the people of Venezuela, and he is taking and keeping it for himself and to support his regime. So he says, we know who they are, and we know where they keep the billions of dollars they've stolen. I mean, that's straight up just saying we're coming to get you. We know who you are, and we know where you keep your money. All right. Trump laid it down right there. He laid it down right there. We know who you are, and we know where you keep your money. All right. We're going to keep going. They're risking their future. Now, this is what he says to those who work with Maduro, who continue to work with Maduro right now. He says, if you stop the humanitarian aid coming over the border that we're bringing, and if you harm any protesters, you are risking your future. He says they are risking their future. They are risking the Venezuelan future. And they are risking their lives for a man who is controlled by the Cuban military and protected by a private army of Cuban soldiers. That is big. He's calling out not only Maduro, he's calling out Castro. Now, he says Maduro is not a Venezuelan patriot. He is a Cuban puppet. Now, he could have just dropped the mic right there. Cuban puppet. He called Maduro just a Cuban puppet. He didn't go as far as to call him a Chinese puppet and a Russian puppet, which he is, and mostly a Chinese puppet, but because he's a Cuban puppet. That's because Cuba's coming next, as is Nicaragua. He wasted no time, and he pulled no punches in calling that out. Now, as well, he says, today we have a message for every official who is helping to keep Maduro in place. The eyes of the entire world are upon you. Today, every day, and every day in the future. You cannot hide from those that confront you. We seek a peaceful transition of power, but all options are open. And when he said that, the crowd, a lot of these people in Miami, they are ready. They've been waiting for decades for some American president to lay it down and go in to Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and you name it. and handle business and take out the ruling regime. They are ready. He said, we seek a peaceful transition of power, and that's what he wants. He's offering for the military, as he said, to not support Maduro. But he says all options are open. Venezuelan military and leadership have a vital role to play in this process, he said. I mean, he's calling everybody out right now. Venezuelan military and leadership have a vital role to play in this process. And he said that there is no safe harbor, no easy exit, and no way out. You will lose everything. He's, like I said, as others have said, this is a soft declaration of war. It's a declaration of the future. This is a much different day, and those days are over. The days of socialism and tyranny control are over. That's what he's saying. I mean, there was chants in the crowd of free Cuba, free Cuba. He says those days are over. And he goes on to say, socialism promises prosperity, but it delivers poverty. Socialism promises unity, but it delivers hatred, and it delivers division. Socialism promises a better future, but it always returns to the darkest chapters of the past. Socialism is a sad and discredited ideology rooted in the total ignorance of history and human nature, which is why socialism always gives rise to tyranny. Socialists profess a love for diversity, but they always insist on absolute conformity. I mean, he laid that down. You could put a beat behind that and make a hot hip-hop track. Trump laid it down right there. I don't know if he wrote that. Probably not. Maybe some of it was him. Maybe it was all him. Maybe it was all speechwriters. But they laid it down right there. All right. Socialism is not about justice. It's not about equality. It's not about lifting up the poor. Socialism is about one thing only: power for the ruling class. They want the power to decide who wins and who loses, who's up and who's down, what's true and what's false, and who lives and who dies. Ah, man, like I said, you could write a hip-hop top 10, number one, not top 10, number one track. You put a nice beat behind that, that's a number one track right there. That's a number one track. He's laying it down, all right? There's nothing less democratic than socialism. And that's going out to Bernie, and that's going out to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's going out to all those so-called democratic socialists, which is an oxymoron. Anybody knows anything about both knows that's an oxymoron. All right. Socialism advances under the banner of progress, but in the end, it delivers only corruption, exploitation, and decay. Donald Trump. All right. I don't know if we're going to war in Venezuela. I don't know if we're just going to have a soft coup, a hard coup, have an overall overthrow. I said a long time ago we're going to invade Iraq. Nobody believed me, and then when it happened, they were like, what? Yes. All right. So, yeah, anything's possible. You know, you want to keep your eyes open. He comes to say, the United States, a truly great nation, is behind you. You know, he says that to the Venezuelan people. He's calling for them to rise up. He's calling for the military to turn. This is blatantly obvious. Anyone that has a brain that watches this stuff can see it, all right? He finishes off the saying, we are born free and we'll stay free.